All right. Welcome everyone to the Flux Dev Meeting. Today is 27th of October. Let me briefly check if there were open agenda items from open action items from last time.
There were a few
action
items last time.
So I had one that I need to put the cloud credits thing on for today, which I did. There's some more discussion of DCO things, but I'm not sure where that led or what's left to do there.
It looked like Scott was going to ask about the Cncf, someone at the Cncf. So we might have to wait until he reports back on that one.
Yeah, I'll give him a ping because it's of interest to me too. I see that we're piling up more and more, one-line changes, which are sort of hanging there because we can't merge them.
Yep.
Yeah, I can ask him about the other action items against his name as well. And here's one for Kingdom. Update note to API docs that shows you how to enable the flag in a patch.
I still owe those 2 PRs.
So that still needs to be done?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, with that out of the way, does anyone have updates regarding GA?
No update from me. Same as before. Actually, that reminds me of the thing I'm going to put on the agenda though. I can't give you a status for anything else.
Sorry, come again?
Either. I can't give you a status for anything else. Hida and Stefan are here and can't talk about the other controllers. Does anyone know if there's any activity towards GA in source controller, etc.?
We have been working on some tests for authentication in source controller. You can paste the PR link.
Cool.
Super, thanks, Sunny. Can maybe somebody, so now we have the notes in the, yeah, I'll fix the template in a second. So there's one ask I had, like, moving on, like Stefan already said he might be here in a bit. He didn't have it on his calendar, the meeting, but I'll move on for now. So one thing I was wondering if more people should have access to the website, as it does, contain all of our documentation. So it would probably be good if every one of us could go and review and approve PRs. I think Stefan added Kingdom yesterday, so I got a couple of reviews of things from Kingdom recently. I mean, we can discuss it, but I think that's already a good help. Another bit I also had was the monthly update. So I'm preparing this right now. If you have anything you would like me to highlight, yeah, please add it to the document.
are you including stuff from KubeCon? I guess you can mention there was a lot of stuff KubeCon and the GitOps days as well.
Yeah, that was yeah. I mean, I don't know how much time I'm going to have to summarize talks, but at least mention, and if we have links to recordings, that we make sure we link to those for sure.
Yeah.
And apart from that, like we have a bunch of new maintainers, which is great news, and a lot of releases recently. So I'll make sure to put all of this out. Yeah, and then the CNCF cloud credits. So I wasn't here the last time, so I didn't manage to check the recording. So the ask was that we set a specific goal, and then I can reach out to EHOR and CNCF. Does anyone remember what this was about, what the ask was, or how we want to use those cloud credits?
I think that's what the specific goal is, like to figure out something we might actually want to do and what it would cost, and then ask the EHOR whether that's something they can support.
And do we have like anything that would be of particular interest, like more end-to-end?
I think Stefan mentioned something specific, but I can't remember. I think that, like, we've got a lot of Azure tests, end-to-end tests, but those are covered because I think Microsoft actually effectively cover those. So the general idea, I think, is to have similar suites for GCP, AWS, and try and cover those with credits.
Yeah, so we need a GCP account where we can create GKE clusters, run our tests, destroy them, also load balancers to test Google, KMS, all the things that we've integrated with.
Storage as well, I guess. Cloud storage, whatever it's called.
I know we don't have any specific support for DigitalOcean, but at KubeCon I met Daniel Zaltzman, who I spoke to about open source sponsorship, and he sponsored my project, not him, his predecessor, Eddie, who runs SIG-CLI. He introduced me, and anyway, long story short, he was very willing to do some sort of open source sponsorship thing, so we can get sponsored credits from DigitalOcean, I think. They have a Kubernetes platform.
All right.
Do they have ARM64?
Not to my knowledge.
nodes?
No, I don't think so. I'll check.
Yeah, we also, so what we are currently doing now for ARM64, me, Hida, and Michael, we created personal accounts on Oracle Cloud, and we've added our VMs to the GitHub runner, so we can test Flux before a release that actually works on ARM64. But yeah, that's not how it's supposed to work, right? We should get Amazon credits from CNCF. We should use Terraform to create EKS cluster with Graviton ARM nodes and test everything there. So for AWS, being the only cloud that has ARM64 nodes for Kubernetes, that's one goal, to get credits for that. And from Google Cloud to get credits to test all the integrations that we currently have for them. Storage, encryption, load balancers, all things.
Yeah, I was just about to say regarding the Terraform thing, like I know that I kind of just set a standard, just did whatever was best for me with Azure end-to-end tests, but like we should have a discussion regarding like how we write them for GCP and for AWS, so there we don't have one standard for AWS tests, one standard for GCP tests, and right or wrong decision. The Terraform was kind of a choice to make sure that things were cleaned up afterwards, so we weren't just like leaving resources that would just cost a bunch of money. But that in the long run, that might turn out to be the wrong choice, but who knows really.
Yeah, I have like a bunch of bash scripts that are doing all of that for GCP. Like they create clusters, they deploy Flux, they do all sorts of things. Then they clean up using the GCP CLI. It's a while loop that deletes stuff. It will be so much nicer, you know, to use your current framework and code everything with Terraform and reuse the test, refactor the test code. So we have like, oh, for Azure, we have to do this little change here, for Google, this little change here, and AWS, but the majority of what things we test in which order and all of that should be the same for all three providers. So I'm guessing the testing package will have 2 more packages and they will use a common core, especially your Go tests. Because Terraform has to be different, right, for each cloud.
Yeah, it sounds about reasonable. It's like kind of proving the whole, I guess, lie about write once, run everywhere else. It's always gonna have those like, you know, different inputs and things like that. But yeah, it's like Bash works, and that's kind of how a lot of people have done it before. But it's like from a debugging perspective, from a cleanup perspective, from like somebody else coming in, looking at the Bash and understanding, okay, what's actually happening here. I've been in a lot of projects where they set up infrastructure with just like CLI, if it's Azure ARM templates, and becomes like impossible in the long run to maintain.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I agree. It's like refactoring it and trying to standardize the set of tests. And it might be like, okay, so it's storage, or if it's like a Docker registries. So there's like a test that runs against all Docker registries then in all cloud providers, and we can just verify that pretty easily.
Super. I'll reach out to Cncf and figure out what's available and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Michael, you had an agenda item.
Yeah, at the bottom there. I noticed there's a PR for adding a test to check something in image reflector controller, and it made me think, are we keeping track of all the things that are going to be needed to be ported to the reconcilers dev? Because otherwise the stuff will get lost, I presume. Or it'll be easy to lose stuff or something along those lines. So the reason that particular PR made me think of that is that Image Reflector has already had, Sunny did a PR which rewrote all the tests. So then now they're in a completely different form. And when reconcilers dev is merged, or whatever happens to it, somehow gets into main, then either there will be a very quite painful merge or rebased or something to do, or it'll just be like, I will just overwrite what's there. So is there a plan for that? Is anyone?
Yeah, I also
quite a long-running branch now.
I also raised this issue. around source controller and the refactoring of the bucket reconciler. That's so is that pull request which is made against the main branch, but he'd already refactored half of the implementation of the bucket. No GCP in there, right? So we are diverging by the day enormously. I think reconcilers dev will have to be rewritten from scratch in source controller and image automation controller for sure. Yeah, everything is stuck on the Helm chart reconciler in source controller, so we cannot move forward.
Stuff like that, rewriting the tests, could that not just be cherry picked into main? Because it's not like involved with the other bits of refactoring.
Yeah, of course. I did that for customized controller. So customized controller in main now has tests in the new form refactored with without all the other things like case status conditions and the new runtime and all of that. So yeah, for tests, sure, we can do that, but that doesn't solve the bucket pull request with the GCP, the one that we already merged, adding GCP support, and the one that's currently now on refactoring the generic bucket and the GCP one.
I mean, it's going to be true of anything, isn't it? There will be a bunch of almost anything that touches the controller code will collide with those refactorings.
Yeah, so what we currently do is pull from the reconcilers dev the tests into main, also pull the cherry pick the build changes. We build everything with XX go, not go build anymore. On a bunch of controllers, I asked Sunny to make those changes in main, but looks like image reflector and image automation doesn't have it in main.
It could easily, right?
Yeah, you just move the whole stuff into main, should work straightforward. I mean, that's how has been done in customized controller, source controller, notification controller. Yeah. So yeah, let's not wait any longer and move the tests and the build into main to make things.
Sunny, do you remember if there was a technical reason that stuff?
No, I was thinking about this same situation. So I thought in case of image reflector, new changes are going to the reconcilers dev branch. So I just pointed my PR to that branch. But I can cherry pick it to the main as well.
Yeah. So test and build, as Stefan says, try and put to main. That sounds sensible. At least that reduces the amount of conflict later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a
also
bit
notification controller. So we got the reconcilers dev long ago in there, made by Sontochi, I think. And we've added so many new things, so many new integrations, tests, and everything. So I'm guessing we'll have to rewrite all that work again. Like it's 1 month old already.
Is there a reason, is there any reason not to just merge reconcilers dev in like notification controller? Because it doesn't actually change anything about the behavior of it, right? Does it? It's just the particular protocols or whatever, you know, how it uses status and how it uses annotations and stuff are now encoded in the library, but it's still the same way it uses them, so it won't break interoperability with the other controllers or anything with the CLI.
For notification controller, that's true. And sadly, that's the only controller for which that thing is true, because notification controller doesn't uses the source API. Everything else uses the source API, and we cannot do that because all the branches.
What's changed about it? Sorry, you're probably just about to explain that.
So we've changed the source API in the reconcilers dev in source controller. Then we open pull requests with source controller from reconcilers dev. So we cannot promote in a consumer the changes to main if the thing that it consumes is not promoted to main. And I know they changed a lot of the conditions, how they are wired. There are changes in the API itself. The checksums of sources are no longer SHA-1, are SHA-266. Yeah. And many other changes. So also the runtime is on it's a release candidate. We should first sort out is everything good. I also have some major concerns about reconcilers dev everywhere around events and spam. I would not merge that to main until we figure out and we implement the trace event. Right now, we emit events for everything that goes to Slack, and it's completely useless to all our users. No one will use notifications anymore if we merge that, because we send all the events that are mostly debug events. We send everything to notification controller, which is very noisy.
So that wasn't the case before. Oh, it wasn't the case
No.
before because it was very selective about, as in you had to do those things separately, right?
Yeah. So now source controller, I don't know. The last time I looked over it, everything it does, every step it does, it emits an event, which is great for debugging purposes, but people definitely don't want to see that a successful pull made 10 Slack messages. It's like, that's not how people want Flux to behave. And I've talked to Hida about this. The solution was, okay, let's merge this into reconcilers dev, introduce the trace event type. And Sanya, I think you did that in the runtime package. And those events are no longer forwarded to notification controller. They end up only as Kubernetes events. But now we have to go back to source controller, image reflector controller, everything, and sort out the events. Like what people expect is for each reconciler loop, you get a single event that tells you it fails and why it failed,
if it does
or it
anything.
worked.
If it actually did anything, right? If it moved
actually did
any bits.
Yeah. For example,
That makes sense.
Customized controller after the server side apply refactoring, it no longer emits events if all the changes the dry run said there is no change, right? Why would you send that to Slack? 1,000 objects unchanged. No one wants it. Wants that in their event. So it's great that we have these events now, and it's easier to debug what's going on, but we have to filter them. So the problem is if we merge reconcilers dev to main and we find some bug, we cannot fix the bug, right? Because we can't release what's currently in reconcilers dev. We have to check out the latest tag release, patch that, push it to a different branch and create a release from that branch and so on. So if we merge everything now, which is not in a release state, then it will be very painful to do bug fixes.
Yeah, pain now versus pain later. Isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. Yeah, we have to discuss this again with Hide present because
All right, let's do that in the in Slack. Maybe.
he is
Maybe next
out
week.
today. So
Yeah, he's out today. Yeah. Okay.
Stefan, did you have any updates for GA? You weren't here when we started the meeting.
no, nothing changed from last time. It's the same situation.
Okay. Yeah, then
But yeah, we found more bugs in Kubernetes upstream. For example, if you delete the service account name from your deployment and you do kubectl apply -- server-side apply, it will tell you nothing changed, even if you deleted a field, an important one from an object. And that bug is on the latest version of Kubernetes. So yeah.
Is it one where you have to set it to none or something rather? Like
to default. So what happens is that the Kubernetes API, when you run it with server-side apply, does not know about the defaults. If you remove the service account name from your manifest, what should happen is the Kubernetes API should put it back with the value default. So you had, I don't know, service account name app. You delete that, you apply it. The API should add default there and the diff is obvious. It was app, now it's default. The problem is the Kubernetes API does not set the default, and kubectl itself does not detect the drift and does not apply the new definition. So you cannot remove it. You have to set it in Git to default or in your YAML, not in Git, and do a kubectl apply, and then it will work. It will change the value. But if you delete the value, not applying defaults, that means it cannot detect the change. And it does a three-way merge, and yeah. And since that, it also happens with environment from. So get another field that doesn't have a nil default, I'm guessing. Yeah. So if you change things, it works. If you delete things, that's where some things have work. Defaults. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so basically defaulting and sort of the meaning of missing fields is handled in different places. And if it was handled in the right place, then it'll work. And if it was not handled in the right place, then it won't work.
The only place where it works okay when you remove stuff are in custom resource definitions. But for old Kubernetes APIs like deployment, service, config map, and so on, those have all sorts of things that were in kubectl. All that logic was on the client side, and now the server does not have all the logic that was at some point in the CLI. So
yeah, I guess that's what you get in a long-running project, is things just slip away from being uniform.
Yep. So yeah, this is not actually related to GA. It's something that we found more issues that it's not a blocker for GA or anything, but yeah, we haven't moved forward with the refactoring or the multi-tenancy issues. So GA is still far away.
Okay. Yeah, I had one small thing I wanted to let everyone know, like about the security audit. So that has concluded now, the work with Ada Logics, and we're going to look into publishing the report the week after next. So we'll work with Cncf and Ostiv to announce this. Yeah, if you've looked at some of the GitHub issues, you will see that I created a board where we're sort of tracking the outcomes of the audit. And that's the good news is like what you see on the board is like 98 or 99% of the feedback, and the rest will deal with, you know, through responsible disclosure. So that's also going to be public info in about 2 weeks.
Thank you, Daniel, for helping out with the management of everything around audit. Thank you. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, no worries. I think once we have this announced, we can start looking into, you know, applying for graduation. I think that we track the work, that we take the feedback seriously is going to be like another seal of, what is it called? Like a thumbs up for us as a project. A sign of maturity is what I wanted to say. And yeah, I'll reach out to all of you because it's going to be a team effort to get like the application, you know, everything updated, you know, that we basically tell the story about what happened in the past year as good as we can, and then have a smooth sailing through the graduation process. Yeah.
Are there any things on the audit board that need to be looked at like now, or I'm thinking AdaLogics were quite keen that at least one of the fuzzing PRs was merged so that it could be sort of integrated with the fuzzing cloud fuzzing platform.
Sure, if we can do that. I filed one tracking issue for it. I'll dig it out in a bit. Basically, there was so we could merge their PRs, but I think there was something that was left to be done around so that we could, so the fuzzers could be statically linked, and there's some work that is sort of done but not 100% yet around was it like the image automation controller and source controller? So something still needs to be done there.
Yes. So yes, that's right. So those two to work on the cloud fuzzing thing, you need to have static binaries, statically linked binaries, and those two I think are still dynamically linked. So they won't work, but there are other controllers. So that is something we need to do before the fuzzing can be merged there. But also the fuzzing PRs in general have a lot of duplication, which I think can be reduced. So I think they need a bit more work before merging anyway. Stefan, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I think what's possible to merge as it is the one in package. But for all the controllers, I think we have to extract the Docker file to a separate repo and pull the Docker file into CI, so we don't have a Docker file that imports everything. It's basically half copy paste of each Makefile inside the Docker file. What I'm for merging is the package pull request, and see with that you know we don't have CGO in there, no C bindings, no nothing, are just our libraries. And being the core of all the controllers, it will be great to have further the fuzzing stuff merged there and see that it actually works and it runs on the Google infrastructure.
Cool, that sounds like a plan then. Yeah.
And afterwards, yeah, we can have a meeting about this specifically and sort out how we want to refactor the controllers tests.
Cool.
So yeah, package and the CLI itself, Flux 2, everything that's not controllers, those two are good candidates for merging as it is.
Super. Yeah, I added it to the agenda. And maybe we could also, I mean, if any of you have time to check out the board, I think it would be good to figure out like what we want to focus on first, what might be easy wins and what is sort of more important. And I know that tasks like, document everything around security, for example, that is just going to take a bit longer than all the others. So maybe if we could review this together would be helpful, because then we can also let the CNCF know or the TOC know, like we're aware of these, like we'll do these first, and so we have like a bit of a story. Maybe
Yeah, there are, let's say 1/3 of the issues are, hey, you are not returning an error in image reflector controller, or you log in this way in image automation and in this way in source control. The log function should be the same everywhere, right? Those could be fixed very easily, especially that we have in package how you should do events, how you should log errors and everything. That I think that could be easy to fix. I will be working on the security document, for example, document how the current controllers, which RBAC are they using, document the service accounts, document how Bootstrap works, which keys are left on the machine where you run the CLI, which keys are generated on the cluster, under which circumstances your personal token can land on the cluster. For example, if you tell Flux Bootstrap, hey, I want you to use my token on the server and so on. I'll try to do that, but I'll not be fast, let's say. I'll try to do it in different pull requests. For example, document the Flux Bootstrap from a security perspective, then do the controllers and others. But yeah, it's going to take some time.
Cool. Yeah, that's all I had. Did anyone of you have anything else you were hoping to discuss today? Anything where you need help or?
I just have a small point if time allows. During KubeCon, I got filled a lot of questions regarding like the web UI and, oh, is there a GUI for Flux, and Argo has a GUI and why doesn't Flux have a web UI? I haven't really followed that much into the work that's been done there. I know that's we haven't really like looped back on that in a while now, it feels like. I'm not calling anyone out, I'm just saying that it might be, I just was wondering about maybe status regarding that.
Yeah, I can say some words about it. So the web UI is currently in a state where we have some proof of concept how to build a UI with React. The UI shows some things. For example, it gives you a view of the sources and customizations, and it also makes a graph of the reconciled objects of a customization. For example, you see here is the customization, the deployment, replicas, and pods. That's one example. And that was it. We haven't moved forward from that. The people that were involved with the web UI work have taken a break. The last commit was like 5 months ago. For the UI part, we have made some small updates to the Go packages, but that's also way behind. Yeah, basically we have no front-end team inside the Flux community to work on this. So yeah, I guess we should update the README and yeah, ask people to reach out to us and if they want to help us build the UI.
Yeah, the overlap between people involved in Flux and people who are good with front-end development isn't really, I don't think there's too much overlap unless you, Stefan, have a hidden talent. You're freelancing as a front-end developer in your free time.
Yeah. In my sleep, I write React.
Night.
Yeah, but that might be something we should be a bit more vocal about, of just shouting out there, maybe events, if we're doing like external presentations or whatever, of just going it. There might be somebody out there who goes, I really like Kubernetes and I want to write React, for example. And this might be an interesting challenge for them. So just going out there and saying, hey guys, yeah, we're actively looking for people who are interested in getting involved. There is a lot of work to do here, and it would be really appreciated. I think that just going out with that information and doing that every time we talk somewhere, I think that would do something at least in getting the work started again.
Yep.
On that topic,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about the choice of React, only because I've heard some people really don't like React, and I don't know if we feel strongly about using React, or is that just what we picked off the shelf, or
any UI framework, there's a constituency that doesn't like it.
Yep.
I think React
Yeah, I
is probably
guess-
one of the nicer ones, to be honest.
Well, we didn't make any decision. That's what Jordan likes. That's what he is good at. So he helped build the proof of concept web UI using what he knows best, which is React.
That's all I was looking for.
That's all of it. Yeah,
I feel like
then
whatever
we also
framework you
use
whatever
we also
framework
use
you-
protobuf to serialize the things that React gets. It's like, you know, front-end development is not that easy yet. It used to be many years ago. It's a really complicated machinery that I don't quite understand very well.
It was never easy, or it wasn't easy at any point after CSS was introduced. That's my experience.
Okay, yeah.
That was the turning point. Before that, it was kind of, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, any last words? Or shall we wrap up?
I was trying to recall some discussions I had with Hideo in case of the package events. Like, should we introduce a trace type, event type? And his concern was like by default, when you send an event, it should be sent to Kubernetes, but not as a notification. And if you are introducing a new event type called trace, now you have to explicitly say, like, I want to send, in this case, you're explicitly saying this is not going as a notification. So his concern was default should not be sent as a notification. And you have to explicitly say, I want to send an event as a notification. Does that make sense?
So do you mean that instead of, I think the stated plan was some events get labeled as trace and those ones are just filtered out and don't make their way to the notifications controller, versus explicitly saying when you call, event, or I can't remember what it is in the recited thing, but say it's event.
Event F.
Explicitly saying this should be a notification. Is that the difference? Yeah, I lean towards the latter, I think, rather than the former. But so as in you're explicit in the code right there about whether this should be a notification or not, because that sounds a lot more like what is done anyway already, where it's like all these things get logged, some of these things are events, and some of these things are notifications.
And
Yeah, I
the-
think
It would be the same.
I think all things that are logged should be events at trace level, at least. I don't think we should log stuff and don't emit events for that. Because then people will get really confused. Oh, I use Flux logs and I see a bunch of stuff, but when I do get events, I don't see them and so on. For example, in customized control, the last time I wrote that code, I added events everywhere. I did the log, and I think also the level, right? Trace, debug, info, error, for logs apply also to events. Even if Kubernetes has only two types, normal and warning, right? What we decided is if we emit an error, we log it as an error, we mark the event as an error. For everything else is normal in the Kubernetes event, right? And I think that's already how it works, Sunny, right? In package.
Only traces are filtered, not sent to as a notification. Everything else is forwarded. There's also, like while discussing with Hede, another thing came up, like some warnings, maybe you don't want to send notification for them. Maybe those warnings should only be in Kubernetes level. Like things that you cannot do anything about, but some errors have to be sent as a warning to Kubernetes, and that should also be sent as a notification. Right?
Have you looked at the alert API and how that works? Because that
JPI?
filtering is there. The notification control API, the alert customers.
No, I have not seen that. Have to check.
So when you define an alert, you can say, I want to subscribe to info events and errors or only errors. Then you can exclude errors based on regex and say, oh, this error, network timeout, I don't care about it. It happens every day because my network is not that great. So I'm going to filter out that particular event and will not end up on Slack. So for the end users, that's where they define alerting rules, right? Based on level, and they can also exclude based on the body of the actual message. They can exclude things from their Slack, PagerDuty, or whatever is the final alerting provider, right? But toward what you said, the first one, right, where you in code we say event, and right now it's based on the level, right? If it ends up on notification controller or not. Maybe it's great to add there on all these methods, Boolean flag or something. Yes, this is for notification control. The issue is that we kind of have had that structure and we throw it away because we want to use the eventing interface from Kubernetes, and Kubernetes doesn't allow you to do anything like that, right? So what's left for us is just look at the level and decide if it goes to notification control or not. That's the only thing that we possibly do because we renounced our custom code and we inherit what Kubernetes does, and Kubernetes doesn't care about alerts.
Any more comments, questions?
So was the resolution of that no resolution? Continue discussion.
Or we undo all the things that we did, the events refactoring, and go back to what we did before, where we actually have control over our events. Right now, we don't. It's,
Yeah, I mean, when I was doing the refactoring, I had to go through and consider every site where I logged or published an event anyway. It's not, I mean, it's probably more of a big deal for source controller than for like image controllers. But
yeah, also people complain a lot about image controllers, right?
Sorry?
People complain a lot about image controllers and their notification. Most people disable those because you get, every time you get a Slack message that says the same thing.
What, that it scans some stuff or something?
Yeah.
There you go. Obviously, it's not working for API is not working for image controllers. Requires further discussion.
There is an issue that tracks that around events.
I think that's it, Daniel.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone. I won't be around next week. I'll see you all in 2 weeks. Take care.
Bye.
That's one. Bye, everyone.